Hi, I'm Ree. I'm burnt out. Let's have some dev talk and tea. So I know burnout isn't specific to the games industry, but today we're going to be discussing about how and why maybe it's so prevalent within the games industry. But before we get into that, let's of course, as always, talk about the brew today. Just to keep it very chill and low key, I have gone for a Bird and Blend Moondrop Dreams tea, which is kind of more of a caffeine-free sleepy time tea to relax and soothe. If you haven't tried Bird and Blend before, I highly recommend it. I had one of their advent calendars, not last year, but the year before. I missed out last year because of all the moving stuff. But yeah, I personally recommend them. I'm not affiliated, not sponsored or anything, but if you're looking for a nice new tea brand, I do really recommend Bird and Blend. So, that being said, let's talk about burnout a little bit. So I've been working in games for over 8 years now, and I have to say I do feel very lucky to be working in an industry that I am very passionate about. You know, I've been playing games since the age of 5 years old. I have very fond memories of my dad when he was playing video games and I would watch and try and play video games with him. So to be able to work in games is like a dream job. And I think a lot of people in the industry would have similar experiences, right? It's a dream job. You don't just fall into it. Most people intend to get into games because it's what they're passionate about. But here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because if it's the dream job, then why am I exhausted all the time right now? And spoiler alert, it's because I am burnt out. So for those of you who have never experienced burnt out before or aren't sure what the symptoms are, let's just do a very quick high-level overview. So according to mentalhealthuk.org, this is from their website, they categorize it as burnout is a state of physical, mental and emotional exhaustion which can occur when you experience long-term stress and feel under constant pressure. So I have gone through burnout a couple of times, and the way the symptoms manifest for me are exhaustion, sort of no matter what time of the day. I just feel very lethargic and very tired all the time. This comes into having difficulties getting out of bed in the morning, kind of trying to find that motivation to get up and start the day. Some difficulty getting organised. Sometimes I have so much to do in my head that I also get a mental paralysis, which if you've never experienced before, basically it's like you've got 1,001 things to do, or you've got like a list of things to do, and because you have so much to do, your brain doesn't compute it properly, and it kind of all just gets stuck all at once. It's like your brain is a computer, and it's trying to run 15 different high-end softwares at once, and then you just blue screen. So you just kind of stand there and go, the dial-up noise is playing in your head. So there's that, and honestly just a general lack of motivation to do anything creative, anything sort of at home that needs doing. Of course I do go out and do it, like I'll make sure that the house is cleaned and, you know, things are put away properly and we have good meals and the shopping's done, and obviously my partner helps me with all of that too, it's not just me. But there's just the general lack of motivation, like I really have to force myself to do them because I know I need to, not because of oh yeah, that's just the day to do it, or oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, like having that drained from you completely. Even things you should be looking forward to completely drained from you. So nice meals out with friends, you kind of begin to overthink and feel tired even contemplating putting anything in your diary, rather than, oh wow, that sounds like such a nice time, I can't wait. So some of you sat there might be hearing me talk about these symptoms and realise that, hey, that sounds quite similar to depression, which I was also diagnosed with 3 years ago now. So for me as well, being burnt out kind of triggers a little bit of a depressive episode for me, which is great. Love that for me. I just want to cut in here before we continue the video and say, if you are relating to any of these symptoms that I've said, it may not mean that you're burnt out, it may not mean that you are depressed. I am not a licensed anything, but if you're feeling like you relate to some of these things, then I would really, and I can't stress this enough, really go speak to a professional. Go book in with a GP, go find a therapist, go speak to friends or family and talk about how you're feeling. Do not self-diagnose, and do not come away from this feeling like you want to curl up in a ball and never do anything, like the opposite end of the spectrums of self-diagnose and I'm avoiding everything and I don't want to be diagnosed. Like, find healthy ways to figure out everything that you're feeling. But, I'm sharing this because I know a lot of people, unfortunately, do suffer from burnout in the games industry, so I want to make sure that it's not a taboo subject. We're all talking about it, everything's on the table, and I'm happy to be an open book and discuss my experiences. From what I can understand, and as I've just said, mental health difficulties have been quite common amongst the UK game dev scene, at least. The last UK census, which is a very informative census, the last one was in 2022. If you haven't read that, I will link that in the description box down below. They're all very helpful. The figures in that study reflected that 5% of developers who took the survey did suffer from depression, 15% suffered from anxiety, and then 18% suffered from both depression and anxiety. Now, I don't have any comparison figures to compare those two, but personally I feel like that feels like quite a substantial number for an industry that creates fun. We're not doing so hot, babe. We're something's going on. So that brings us to our next question. How does an industry that strives to create entertainment and where we surround ourselves with creativity and fun becomes so burnt out? If you're watching this, you yourself may have an idea for a game project, or you're currently working on a game project which excites you. You're fueled by inspiration and motivated by something that you enjoy. So being creative might come easily or naturally. But what if that isn't the case? What if you're working on a project that just isn't your jam, or the project you're working on has a lot of difficulties, making it hard for you to do your best work or to just do your job on a daily basis because of situations that are out of your hand? And then what if it becomes draining and you can no longer rely on sort of your natural inspiration or motivation, but instead you have to kind of force yourself to be creative, to find solutions for all these problems, and then switch relying on that motivation for sort of a less inspiring, structured way of problem solving instead of the organic processes that excited you at the beginning of the project. This forced creativity can really suck the life out of you. At the end of the day, being a game developer is a job. It's a cool one, but it is what you do for a living. So coming to work, sitting at your PC for 8, maybe more hours a day to make a living, just to put food on the table. Trying to find creative solutions when you're running dry just feels nigh impossible, and it's a very quick way to become burnt out, especially if you're meeting tight deadlines and high expectations. We've spoken about it on this channel before, but the games industry is a very competitive industry, exceptionally so. As more games hit sort of the virtual shelves, it's becoming important for them to try and find a way to get noticed. They have to be bigger, they have to have something that people have never seen before or expected before. The drive to have a truly USP, a unique selling point, is front and center of almost every game that you see trying to come out. But all of this immense pressure put on developers not only to come up with this new and exciting USP, but then on top of that to try and execute that enormous USP. Games have also become extremely expensive to make. I mean, especially in the AAA space. These high costs leads to high expectations to try and turn a profit from how expensive the whole process has been, which, on paper makes sense. But then you recently have things like the article coming out about how EA's expectations for Dragon Age the Veilguard, and if you're new here, I really love the Dragon Age franchise, I follow it very closely. The article came out with saying that the expectation was a crazy high figure about the amount of units they wanted to sell and the profit they wanted to make, and then some comments were made online about how maybe they should have even added MTX, like monetization features, to the game. These expectations have, in my opinion, created a pressure cooker. Developers scrambling for new ideas, budgets increasing with the condition of record-breaking sales, and when the time comes to see if the project launches into space or blows up, the results can be catastrophic, for the developers specifically. We are still currently living in a time where being laid off or having your studio completely shut down is likely. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's indie or AAA. Developers globally are facing a threat of having their jobs taken away. And this topic could have its own video, because there are a lot of moving parts here, and I don't plan to go over all the moving parts right here, right now. But the matter of the fact is, it just adds up into burnout as well. Nobody knows if they're going to wake up in the morning and have a all hands meeting. Everybody in the studio is called in and they're told that they're no longer needed, or the studio is suddenly shut down, and we're surrounded by friends and colleagues who are struggling to find work, and yet the rest of us are trying to carry on as if almost none of this is happening. A friend of mine recently said that working in the video game industry is a privilege, and whilst I agree, it's now become a different kind of privilege in my eyes. You know, a decade ago, it would be a privilege because you were working your dream job or on a cool project, and not many other people can boast about that. But now it's a privilege because you've been lucky enough to find a studio that is still hiring and has enough resources to make any sort of game. I know that I've spent a lot of this video talking about negativity, and I want to make it clear, of course being a game developer is not as physically or mentally demanding as, you know, working in medicine or being a teacher or jobs that require a lot of physical labour. Like, I know this, so if you're gonna come and comment saying you're a game developer, you know, shut the hell up, you've got it easy. Yeah, comparatively. Yeah, sure we do. I'm not stupid. But it is an industry that is becoming more and more mentally volatile in the way that we conduct ourselves and the way that it's just being ran, in my honest opinion. At the end of the day, we make video games. Like, this should be somewhat fun, right? Thank you for watching today's video. It's kind of short and sweet, and I know that it's not my usual speed to do something so heavy and intense, but I wanted to talk about it. It's been on my mind as someone going through it again, and I think it impacts a lot of creative industries, not just video games. So if you're here from another industry, welcome. We're all struggling over here. If you are experiencing, or you think you're experiencing symptoms, as I said, please go speak to a professional or speak to friends and family. And if nobody else has told you, you deserve the time to rest and take a break. So go do it. I'll see you next time.